The story of Augustus does not begin in a grand palace, but in a quiet room in Rome, where a frail boy named Gaius Octavius sat by a window, his gaze lost in the garden. He was not like the other boys. A persistent cough and a delicate constitution kept him from their rough games. His mother, Uttia, the niece of the great Julius Caesar, watched him with a mixture of love and anxiety. She saw in his sharp, intelligent eyes a fire that belied his fragile frame, but she feared for his physical weakness. "Octavius," she would say softly, "you've been reading by candlelight again. Look at the shadows beneath your eyes." The boy would only offer a small, secretive smile. "Mother, the stories of conquerors and heroes are far more compelling than sleep." In his mind, his great-uncle Caesar was a monumental, almost mythical figure. Octavius devoured every military report sent back from Gaul, tracing the battle lines on the floor of his room. Caesar, though distant, recognized the boy's potential. In his secret will, he adopted Octavius as his son, a silent investment in a future no one else could see. At 18, Octavius was sent to Apollonia, a military city in modern-day Albania, to complete his education and military training. It was here, alongside his fiercely loyal and brilliant friend, Marcus Agrippa, a sturdy, practical young man with a natural gift for command, that Octavius truly began to forge his destiny. He learned to ride, to wield a sword, and to command men. One afternoon in March of 44 BC, as he and Agrippa practiced their swordplay, a messenger from Rome arrived, breathless and pale. "Brave news, my lord," the man stammered. "The divine Julius Caesar has been murdered in the Senate." The sword fell from Octavius's hand, its clang echoing in the sudden silence. The world seemed to stop. The sea breeze from the Adriatic felt impossibly cold, but it was nothing compared to the icy void that opened in his heart, quickly filling with a cold, burning rage. Agrippa placed a firm hand on his friend's shoulder. "What do we do now?" Agrippa asked, his voice a low, steady anchor. Octavius did not sleep that night. He stood alone on a balcony, staring at the star-filled sky. The grief for his lost patron slowly gave way to an iron resolve. Caesar was dead, but his legacy was not. And he, the newly named Gaius Julius Caesar Octavianus, would make the assassins pay. The sickly boy was gone. In his place stood Caesar's heir. The return to Rome was a gamble of staggering proportions. Mark Antony, Caesar's charismatic and powerful right-hand man, held the city in his grip and viewed Octavian as an impudent child demanding a seat at the table. The senators who had murdered Caesar watched him with a mixture of fear and contempt. But they all underestimated the young wolf. With a quiet demeanor and a soft voice, Octavian displayed a terrifying political acumen. He used Caesar's vast inheritance to pay the legacies promised to the people and the veterans, swiftly winning their loyalty. The first meeting between Octavian and Antony took place in a tense, candle-lit room. Antony, large and boisterous, looked down at the young man. "Boy," Antony growled, "do you think you can simply arrive and make demands of me? Rome needs real men, not children playing at power." Octavian did not flinch. He met Antony's gaze, his eyes like chips of ice. "I have not come to make demands," he replied, his voice even. "I have come to claim what is mine, my name, my inheritance, and vengeance for my father. You can stand with me, or you can stand in my way. The choice is yours." His audacity gave Antony pause. Realizing the power of Caesar's name and the support Octavian commanded, Antony was forced into an alliance. The second triumvirate was formed between Octavian, Antony, and the general Lepidus. Their first act was a brutal purge. A list of enemies was drawn, and night after night the streets of Rome echoed with screams as death squads. With the Republic's enemies vanquished, the division of the world began. Antony took the glamorous, wealthy East, including Egypt and its enchanting queen, Cleopatra. Octavian was left with the problematic West and the monumental task of stabilizing Italy. His personal life during this period was just as calculated. A political marriage to Clodia Pulchra was swiftly annulled. A second, to Scribonia, was a strategic move to counter the naval power of Sextus Pompey. Scribonia gave Octavian his only child, a daughter named Julia, but there was no love between them. His heart and mind were fixed on the great game of power, and Scribonia was not the woman to share that ambition. And then he met Livia Drusilla. It was at a dinner party. Livia was a woman of sharp, poised beauty, already married and with a young son, Tiberius. But from the first moment their eyes met, Octavian was captivated. He saw not just a beautiful face, but an intellect that matched his own, a calm strength, and a still center in the swirling chaos of Rome. She was the anchor his tempestuous soul had been searching for. Their love was immediate and intense. In the most impulsive act of his calculated life, Octavian forced Scribonia into a divorce on the very day she gave birth to Julia, and persuaded Livia's husband to divorce her. Their marriage would become the bedrock of his life. Livia was not just his wife and lover, she was his most trusted confidant. While he ruled the empire, she ruled his household with an iron will. They shared everything, from his famously simple meals of bread, cheese, and olives, to the gravest matters of state. On long nights, when the weight of the world pressed down on him, it was Livia who sat with him, listening, her counsel always wise. Meanwhile, in the East, Antony fell ever deeper under the spell of Cleopatra and the opulent lifestyle of the Egyptian court. He began acting like an Eastern monarch, gifting Roman lands to his children with the foreign queen. Octavian, a master of propaganda, seized on this. He painted a picture of a decadent Antony, bewitched by a foreign seductress, a traitor to Roman values. The final conflict would be a clash of civilizations. The climax came at the naval Battle of Actium in 31 BC. Under Agrippa's brilliant command, Octavian's smaller, more nimble fleet outmaneuvered and systematically destroyed the larger, heavier ships of Antony and Cleopatra. In a moment of panic, seeing the battle was lost, the royal couple fled, abandoning their forces to annihilation. A year later, Octavian entered Alexandria. Antony and Cleopatra took their own lives. Standing in their tomb, looking upon the bodies of their final rivals, Octavian felt no elation, only a profound and lonely supremacy. The long civil wars were over. At 32, he was the undisputed master of the Roman world. Returning to Rome, he faced his greatest challenge: how to rule. He knew the Romans abhorred the title of king, so, in a stroke of political genius, he went before the Senate in 27 BC and announced he was relinquishing all his emergency powers and restoring the Republic. The grateful and relieved senators begged him to stay, bestowing upon him the new titles of Augustus, the revered one, and Princeps, the first citizen. In name, the Republic lived on. In reality, absolute power over the army, the treasury, and the law rested in his hands.
He had brilliantly cloaked a monarchy in the robes of tradition. He embarked on a massive program of reconstruction. "I found Rome a city of brick and left it a city of marble," he would later boast, and it was true. Temples, theaters, aqueducts, and roads transformed the city and the empire. He established fire brigades and a police force. This era of stability, the Pax Romana, would last for 2 centuries. But public glory was shadowed by private tragedy. Lacking a son, Augustus pinned his hopes on his nephew Marcellus, who died young. He then married his daughter Julia to his friend Agrippa. They had 2 sons, Gaius and Lucius, whom Augustus adored and adopted as his own heirs. But Julia, spirited and suffocated by her father's control, engaged in scandalous affairs. When her behavior became public, Augustus faced the most painful choice of his life: to be a father or an emperor. He chose to be the emperor. With a broken heart, he exiled his only child to a remote island, never to see her again. Fate was not finished with him. His beloved grandsons, Gaius and Lucius, his designated heirs, also died young. The man who could command the world was helpless against the whims of destiny. Reluctantly, he was forced to name Tiberius, Livia's cold and capable son, as his successor. In his final years, Augustus lived with the loneliness of ultimate power. He had outlived his friends, his enemies, and his hopes. On a hot August day in 14 AD, at the age of 75, having ruled for 41 years, he felt his life slipping away. He gathered his closest companions and asked, as if his entire life had been a performance for their benefit, "Have I played my part well? Then applaud as I exit." His last words were for his wife of 51 years. He held her one last time and whispered, "Livia, live on, mindful of our marriage. Farewell." And so, Augustus, the revered one, closed his eyes. The boy who was never supposed to survive childhood ended a century of civil war and built an empire that would shape the course of history. His life was a testament to the power of will, of ruthless ambition transformed into a legacy of peace, forever etched not just in marble, but in time itself.